Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your lunch. If you were with us this morning, you would have heard two European commissioners telling us that no one will be left behind during the next phase of Europe's agriculture policy, that we need to be more ambitious for our urban environments, and we need to be more cognizant of the changing demography that we face as well, for a healthier Europe at all levels as well. So more to come this afternoon and tomorrow, so thank you for joining us again for that. I'm just going to run through some quick housekeeping and then a short explanation how the parallel sessions will work, and then we'll have our first presentation setting the scene for the rest of the afternoon as well. So just to remind you that we have some COVID safety rules in place here. You'll see people come on to monitor that at different stages. Keep your agenda page open, really important. Everything you need to do, especially the parallel sessions, click in there and back out again as well. And visit the library for more information. It's a place of great resource for you. The Slido we're using for the chat, and we'll have some other activity on that this afternoon too. And hashtag, as always, AGRI Outlook. So hashtag AGRI Outlook. Please use that to share your comments as well as amplify the messages that our team are putting out today as well. At the end of the conference, you'll hear me say this a few times, there's a short survey. We really appreciate if you can do that too. And not to forget the medium-term outlook report, which was launched today as well. You can download that from the conference site as well. Now, just on to the parallel sessions. We have 4 sessions for you to choose from today, if you haven't already done so. The first is on climate-neutral farming systems with Dave Keating moderating, bioeconomy with Tamsin Rose, organics with myself, and the role of trade with my good friend Shada Islam as well. After the parallel sessions, we'll rejoin here with Pierre Basco, and Director at the European Commission, DG Agriculture and Rural Development, so he'll be commenting on the short reports that we give for each of those parallel sessions as well. Now, it's my great pleasure to welcome Christian Holzenleitner. He's the head of unit at the European Commission, DG Climate. Good to see you.
Hi, good afternoon. Very happy to be with you and to give you a little introduction into climate policies in agriculture and forestry, obviously. So, our big target in the EU is to become climate neutral in 2050. So this means that, on balance, we will not emit any more greenhouse gases. We won't add any greenhouse gases to the atmosphere anymore. For this, we need to reduce the use of fossil fuels dramatically and significantly. But we also need to increase the capacity of our soils, forests, to take in more carbon. And if you think about it, climate policy in 2050 will be very much about agriculture and forestry. You will have still the emissions from livestock and fertilizer use. The forests, the soils, need to take in more carbon, and we will need more carbon for the industry. So even if we phase out fossil carbon, we still need carbon to produce chemicals. We'll need woody construction material to replace cement and so on. So we'll need more biomass. So what this is all about is, how can we produce our food, our biomass, more sustainably, and how can we use it more sustainably? So, and this is what we want to do with our proposals, where we want to go into this new carbon economy, where carbon will be quite a valuable product, and it will be to a large extent supplied by the agriculture and forestry sector. So, how are we going about this at the policy level? In July, we've come out with our Fit for 55 proposals, where we set the targets for the... Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, I got a bit confused. Where we set out the targets for the member states. So the overall ambition of the EU by 2030, 2035. And what we see is that Europe, the land sector, so agriculture and forestry, could be the first sector to be climate neutral in 2035. And this is really achievable. So what we need to do is to reduce our non-CO2 emissions from livestock and fertilizer use by about 20%. Think about precision farming, anaerobic digestion, and so on, and to increase the annual intake of carbon by around 20%. And there are also a lot of possibilities. Think about rewetting of drained peatlands. Think about agroforestry. But also, as I said, think about a more sustainable use of biomass, using it more for long-lived products like woody construction material. So, and we have these two targets that we set out for 2030, that we reach an annual intake of carbon, a storage of 310 million tons. So that's about 15% more than today. And then for 2035, that we reach climate neutrality for the land sector. And we're also proposing a much simplified governance framework for member states that relies also much more on satellite data, on the data that's already available in the common agricultural policy. But then it's also about the question, how do we get these incentives to the farmers and foresters? How do we make climate-friendly agriculture and forestry a better business? And there's a lot now discussed about carbon farming. And what we want to do is we want to put more substance into carbon farming. And that we want to do with a policy communication that we want to come out next week on the 14th of December that we'll call Sustainable Carbon Cycles. And then we want to come out by the end of next year with a legislative proposal on the certification of carbon removals. So, and what does this mean? Well, carbon farming means you take in an additional ton of CO2 in your forests, in your soils, and you get a price for it, maybe 35, 40 euros. And to make this work, you need to understand and you need to be able to certify for how long, how much carbon is kept there in your soils, in your forests. And once we understand that, we can build a lot of financial incentives on that, be it from public funds, from the common agricultural policy, or be it from the private market. You have a lot of the big food processors, the Nestle's, Danones of our world, that promise to their customers to be climate neutral by 2040, 2045 across their value chain. And for this, they must be able to set the right financial incentives. We've already looked at several examples. In Europe, there are very interesting initiatives, like, for example, in France with the Label Bas Carbone, like a whole farm audit, or other initiatives, like, for example, in Eastern Germany with more futures, where it's about the rewetting of drained peatlands, and where these guys who are doing it are selling it on the private carbon market, and I think by now are almost sold out, but could achieve like prices of 50, 60 euros. So and there we have models that work already quite well. Other models or initiatives, like, for example, on soil organic carbon, on grassland, with extensive livestock, we may still need a little bit more of research, how exactly to measure the carbon and so on. But there we also make progress. Okay, so we are now very much about this, how can we upscale this carbon farming? Because there's a lot of uncertainty, both on the ones who want to invest into carbon farming, because they don't know exactly what they are getting. Maybe if there's a bit of greenwashing in there, and the ones who, like the farmers, who want to engage in more climate-friendly practices and store more carbon, and they don't know exactly, okay, how much money are they getting? So, and there is where we want to get in, where we want to clarify and bring more transparency. On the one hand, who can finance carbon farming? As I said, I think there's an interest from the big food processors, so there's private money. There's the whole common agricultural policy. where we are now discussing with the member states, with the CAP strategic plans, what can be done for carbon farming there. We ourselves, at the EU, we have several programs in Horizon with the soil mission, like the LIFE program, where we are already financing carbon farming projects and will do even more so. And we're also looking with our colleagues into the state aid provisions. But all of this can only work if we can measure well, if we know in the first place. And every farmer should know, what can I do best with my parcel of land in terms of climate action, in terms of biodiversity, in terms of the bioeconomy. And only if you look at the three, you know what to do best. And then, of course, if you then also can measure well the CO2 stored, you can earn here additional income. And of course, you need a lot of advisory services for this. And I think this is also something that the Common Agricultural Policy can provide. And of course, we are also working at the long-term perspective. So how could then, in the longer term, these carbon farming initiatives, these carbon removals, be integrated into our EU climate policies? Okay. So what, in terms of timeline, what are we doing here in Brussels? We've already published earlier this year a handbook on carbon farming, where we set out several examples, initiatives across Europe. We've put out our big objectives in July. Now we are coming with the communication on sustainable carbon cycles, where we really want to look at this whole value chain. So how can you produce food and biomass more sustainably, but also use it more sustainably afterwards, so that you get really into climate-positive value chains, into a new carbon economy. And then, next year, as I said, we'll go into the technical nitty-gritty and come out with a proposal for the certification of these carbon removals. So I hope that was a quick overview of what we are doing here, and I hope you will also enjoy the sessions that are now coming up and dive deeper into these topics. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Christian. I learned a lot there. There's certainly a lot on the table to be not just discussed, but to be rolled out in the next few years as well. So let's go into the parallel sessions. In a moment, you'll be able to do just that. But after you've completed the parallel session, don't forget to come back here as well. Your moderators will give you instructions as to how to do that. We'll do the quick reports on the session, so we'll see you soon.